So I'm going to explain what Emily Pembear was all about. So the book is called Kurkle Dunwich, and it's kind of a children's book. The format is based on Winnie the Pooh, so the length of the chapters and the cutesy sort of style of it is kind of based on that. So Emily Pembear is a girl and a bear and a pen, all three in fact. So she's a trinity. And this is really an existentialist children's book. When Emily has a problem to solve, she tends to split into those three personas, characters, and the pen can write, and when it writes, what it writes becomes real. And Bear is very strong and powerful, and he's sort of like her masculine side, Emily's masculine side. And Emily is obviously an ordinary kind of girl apart from that. And Kurkle Dunwich is a village where all these different characters live. And I'm not really sure how I came up with that name. I wanted to choose a very traditional sort of English village, which is where it's based. And that was the best name I could come up with that was original yet sounding quite old English. The name Emily came from a girlfriend of mine who I had a brief stint with for a few months, and there's something about Emily Pembear that is for her and of her, and she was the muse for me for the story. Although I also had another muse, which was my Russian girlfriend Julia, and I actually wrote the book for her while we were in Russia. So the book was actually written in Russia. I wrote it so that I would basically write a chapter every day so that I could read her a chapter at bedtime, like a bedtime story, even though she was 30, whatever. And she really loved that and always fell asleep to it. There were no edits in this book. I did not edit one single thing. I wrote it straight off the cuff, completely free-flowing, never felt the need to go back and change anything. Probably could do with a bit of English grammar and spelling checks, but I didn't want to touch it. I wanted it left as it was, because it just came to me just like that, all however many, 20 chapters. Never looked back, just wrote the whole thing, chapter after chapter. Knew exactly what each chapter was going to be about, who the characters were. So all the characters, well, maybe not all of them, most of them are based on two-word names for traditional English objects. The idea being that objects can talk, or in this story, effectively, the characters are really sort of based on objects. So the characters have an objective part and a subjective part, and I think they came to me from an old, not musical, like a theatre production about, maybe in Bedknobs and Broomsticks, I don't know. I've never seen the film, but I did go on a date with this Chinese lady to see this theatre production at the King's Theatre years and years ago. It's very strange. I was standing around with 2 tickets on my own, and my girlfriend had not wanted to come along, or I think we'd broken up in fact. And I was just standing there in Gunwharf, outside number 1 Gunwharf Quays, the Lipstick Tower where I lived at the time. And this young Chinese lady student at the university walked straight up to me as if she'd been told that I had a spare ticket and she should go and meet me right there at that time. And I said, "Do you want to go to the theatre?" And we just went to the theatre. Very bizarre. Some of the characters are based on real people, but I'm not going to tell you who, so I don't get sued. Although one, I think Guy Byrne is his name, or Guy Byrne, is based on a university lecturer who was an organisational psychologist. The names like Pancake, no idea where they came from, just creative process just emerged from my ridiculous brain. Boggy Doggy, oh, I love Boggy Doggy, is kind of based on my childhood dog, although not the same breed or colour. But I love the fact that my childhood dog Sonny, Cavalier King Charles, always used to get in the mud when we took him for walks to the forest. He just loved running up the stream. We always go charging towards the stream and diving in. Spaniels love that, and that's really who Boggy Doggy is based on. But Boggy Doggy's not really a spaniel. I'm not really sure what breed he is. Anya Lakinova, I think her name was, who was a friend of my Russian girlfriend, Yulia. She was also Russian. She drew the original drawings, illustrations, and brought the characters to life really beautifully. She was, I would say she's a world-class illustrator. She worked at Saatchi & Saatchi, working on marketing projects, and in Moscow. They're obviously a top creative agency. She used to go travelling to the best training courses in the world for drawing, illustrating, different techniques. She went, when I last spoke to her, she was heading over to Spain, to Barcelona, to do a training course on a particular style. And she was awesome, but of course I was absolutely penniless at the time. Couldn't pay her for the illustrations. She couldn't really work for free, to be fair, and she did the first 2 or 3 chapters, I think, illustrations for those, based on the sizes I asked for. So a certain number of large illustrations and a certain number of smaller ones. And I couldn't progress any further with it, so that's why, unless I've been able to fix that by the time you actually read the book, the original version, which is on my website, simoneddyart.gallery, in PDF form to download, you'll see the original illustrations only there. There was something that captivated me about 2 churches in a village, which is where that chapter came from. I'd seen a TV show about 2 churches next to each other somewhere in England. One of them was a normal church, which is called a white church, I think, and the other church is called a black church. And the black church is not satanic, but it's atheist. So it's very sort of humanist kind of thing. They still kind of build each other up into a bit of excitement and jubilation, and cultivate a kind of spirit. And they have sermons, which I think is humanist, and I love this idea. I thought it was brilliant, and I love the fact that churches were next to each other. And I just thought it's quite unusual having 2 churches in a village, so I want to do that. So that's what I wrote about. Emily and Bear. are combined, because Bear, as I said, is the masculine side of Emily, and what I was trying to do was show girls that they have a masculine side that they can sort of connect with and utilise, and the same, I would hope, would be realised of boys, that they have this feminine side as well, because I think it's good to understand both of those if that's the model you want to use. The pen is really about teaching young people that things can become real just from writing, and the pen is mightier than the sword. So although it's fantasy, it's still sort of relevant and purposeful. The main other lady of the book, Hazel Thumbstick, is of course a hazel thumbstick, which is an old style walking stick, traditional English, made of hazel, and you put your thumb through a V at the top, and she is not necessarily a she, so I didn't actually start out to write it that way, but as I wrote the book I was sort of thinking she was kind of a transvestite or something, something like that, and yeah, I don't really know, but the book is quite liberal, and it's not supposed to be, it's quite open about that, about these kind of things, and I think there's an element of one of the older characters being gay, and yeah, it's supposed to be LGBTQ plus friendly and non-binary friendly, and yeah. What else can I say about it? The chapters count downwards. I wanted to do that to mix things up, but also to make real the concept of eternal return in the book, because it is an existentialist novella, an existentialist children's book, and there have been quite a few existentialist children's books written. There was one about a giraffe, I can't remember what that was called exactly, something like Gerald the Existentialist Giraffe, and I think it's a really important genre, because I would have loved that sort of thing as a kid. I didn't realise till probably in my early 30s that I was really an existentialist humanist, and I would really have, these books would have really resonated with me. So yeah, the idea of eternal return is, if you've ever seen the film Eternal Lightness of Being, or the book of the same name by Milan Kundera, that's completely about the eternal lightness of being, which is part of the model of existentialism. So the way I portray that in the book is fairly blunt, and it's not very subtle, and that is that the book begins again from the start when you get to the final chapter. So you have this idea that they're going around and round in a constant loop. And what else is there to say? Some other really important stuff, I'm sure. If I think of anything else, I'll make a part 2 to this video, because I'm sure there'll be some other things that I will think of. I did find out subsequently, after writing the book, that someone in Penn State, USA, had created a character called Emily Penbear. I found that by searching on the internet for the character names, and from my book, this person, a lady, I think, had created a soft toy called Emily Penbear, but it's Penbear as in Penn State, so I think it's 2 N's, and mine is about a writing implement. So apologies if anyone feels that I've stolen the name, but I did come up with it originally. I did come up with it something original. Right, better go. Part 2 coming.